Hello, everyone. We want to talk about a really interesting topic, and that is the whole idea of real, true stock market, right? Like the NASDAQ, you name it, being fully tokenized. And what would that mean in regard to these particular assets like XRP, Q&T, and others? There is a shift towards stock market tokenization. So we have some new developments. Consider smashing that like. Back with Jesse of Apex Crypto Insights. Let's just get right into the material and why it matters to you. So I want to give a shout out again to Mr. Man. Okay, did some collaborations with him. So did Jesse. Jesse did an excellent job in his deep dive. Both of these guys talking about some of this stuff. So what do we have here? Mr. Man, who can be followed over at Mr. Man XRP, points out the best 7 minutes you will watch today. Going to put the pieces together through Fed Chair Jerome Powell, Kristalina Georgieva, IMF Director, Kevin Warsh, previous Fed Governor David Andolfato, previously of the St. Louis Fed, and James Wallace of Ripple. The Fed is being managed through Ripple as the globe has lost confidence in its system and ability to be the provider of the world. Well, if anything, like would XRP be the lender of last resort for the world? Some people ask that. But remember, every central bank that uses RippleNet, now Ripple Payments, must hold a reserve of XRP. This is very true. These are not just statements just because, Mr. Man thought it'd be cool to state this. You can look this up, guys. This is true. The escrow that Ripple holds is likely part of its oversight and mandate from the central banks that have not disclosed their partnerships yet. So Ripple has escrowed those reserves for safekeeping. Jesse, this is quite a video. I mean, it's 7 minutes. I do want to get into it. But before we jump into it, do you have something you want to share in that regard before we start this video?
Well, I was actually going to do a video on showing the advantages that there are to central banks, commercial banks, and institutions actually holding XRP. There are advantages. So a lot of people think like, oh, XRP is just going to be used on-demand liquidity. You're going to go from one currency to XRP to another. So it's only going to use XRP for a few seconds. But I believe that's incorrect. There has been many hints of Ripple saying that banks would hold XRP, and there are advantages of them holding XRP. And so also the AMMs, if you look Project Mariana, I did a lot of deep dives. I did a deep dive on Project Mariana showing how this is XRP ledger, where central banks can actually central banks can literally provide liquidity, provide assets and XRP to the AMMs, the automated market maker. So it's crazy, Project Mariana. But in the Apex community, if you want to go deeper, literally, if our viewers want to go deeper, literally, I got under courses, I've got one folder there. All my deep dives are all organized, but I got one for Project BIS. So all the BIS Project Mariana, Project Juro, it's all the XRP ledger, but the Project Mariana is there. It's unreal. I prove 100% that central banks literally are going to be providing tokens to the AMMs that are built on the XRP ledger. So absolutely insane. But no, let's get into it, buddy, because this is crazy. But I'm planning to do a video on just that soon. It's already lined up.
So I want to give a disclaimer once again. We're going to play this. So there may be like 30 seconds or maybe a minute and a half where at some point Jesse says, hey, stop, pause it there. And he interjects because he wants it fresh in his mind, what is being outlined. So if you see interjection, don't consider it like too much of an interruption. It's totally fine. So we welcome it. Let's go ahead and play this. And yeah, consider smashing that like. So here we go. This is Mr. Man's findings.
Overall,
we rewind it. Here we go.
Overall, the labor market appears to be in solid condition and broadly in balance and is not a significant source of inflationary pressure. As for our price stability mandate, inflation has significantly eased from its pandemic highs of mid-2022 without the kind of painful rise in unemployment that has frequently accompanied efforts to bring down high inflation.
Trade policies in some places may boost inflation again while weakening economic growth. Any central bank with a mandate that includes both price and employment stability will face very difficult choices.
And, my hope is that we'll get through this and get back. Well, we're always going to be aiming for maximum employment and price stability. That's what we do. Again, to your question, is the administration is, as I mentioned in my remarks, is implementing significant policy changes, and particularly trade now is the focus. And the effects of that are likely to move us away from our goals. So unemployment is likely to go up as the economy slows in all likelihood, and inflation is likely to go up as tariffs find their way, and some part of those tariffs come to be paid by the public.
When monetary policy outcomes are poor, the Fed should be subjected to serious questioning, strong oversight, and even opprobrium. But a narrow central bank, we have to recognize, has more going for it than mere tradition. Our constitutional republic is accepting of an independent central bank only if it sticks to its congressionally directed duty and successfully performs its task. Ours is, after all, our third experiment in the U.S. with a central bank, not because of the success of its predecessors, but their failure. We don't become the third central bank the way you win a third Super Bowl, like keep at it, and we keep giving you more. It's the third because we've struggled with the questions that are in the current policy conjuncture since the founding of the Republic. And what's my historical lesson from those old fights about the Bank of the United States? We should remember the revealed preference of the body politic is a deep distaste for inflation, also for bailouts and power grabs. The governance objectives, it strikes me, is clear. It's to make the central bank safe for democracy, not to make democracy safe for the central bank. So in conclusion, before Raghu comes up here and asks me a series of tough questions, I should say the Fed's current wounds are largely self-inflicted, and its plot armor isn't what it once was. A strategic reset is necessary, now more than ever, to mitigate losses of credibility, changes in standing, and most important, worse economic outcomes for our fellow citizens. Now, this all might strike you as quite a surprise to hear, because we central bankers are trained to be careful with our critiques, lest the daylight reveal the magic. A bigger risk, it strikes me, is that of the sorcerer's apprentice, the misuse of magical powers producing trouble. Assembled in this room are dear friends who served with me in the financial crisis, colleagues who served with me on the G30, who are doing their best in our country and around the world to strengthen the economy, to ensure duty to its remits in various places. We're stewards of good and important purposes. We can ill afford the closing of the monetary mind. And if anything today, what I hope for is a richer discourse and a richer inquiry. We should be a bit less worried about violating pieties, prepared to endure periodic frowns of disapproval, because the benefits are huge. We can reclaim our intellectual freedom. We can get policy back on track. We can get stable prices and strong economic outcomes. Central bank legitimacy demands nothing less. I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. Raghu, please come on up and rough me up a bit.
People say, how can you trust the Fed to do the bookkeeping? I mean, like I said, my response is, well, you don't expect the Fed to kind of steal your money. I mean, if the Fed can print all the money at once, it's not going to mess up. So, we have this big spreadsheet, the blockchain if you want, but it's just managed by the Fed, and it's very cheap, much cheaper than Bitcoin, if you're willing to delegate the responsibility to a third party. But then the downsides to all of that, of course, is you'd actually suppose you didn't want the Fed to be responsible for processing the payments. I mean, suppose the Fed will likely impose some KYC restrictions on some purchases. They might not process some purchases that you might want to undertake. And so it was at that point that I said, well, we could, if we wanted to, extend the concept one step further. I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen, but just conceptually, you could imagine not Fed wired for all, but kind of like a Fed coin, where what the Fed would do is actually just issue these, Bitcoin-like objects, and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the U.S. dollar. That would eliminate the exchange rate volatility. But they could delegate the clearing of these payments to some third party, some sort of Ripple-like protocol.
Others was like the rise of other CBDCs. So I do work in the US. We work with the Fed.
So just real quick, this is what I have. You heard specifically, strategic reset is more important now than ever. This is from a central banker stating that, Jesse,
Man, was that the IMF guy that was saying that?
Yes, literally.
Oh, there's so much there because he's blaming all the central banks and we need a strategic reset. It's like, that's the new Bretton Woods. Okay. And oh my goodness, the IMF, man. And they're trying to act like they're like all good and it's all for the public good and to do what's right. And, oh my goodness, don't even get me on the IMF. That is complete BS. Okay. That is absolute BS. Oh my goodness. So I would encourage everyone to, if you have the heart for it, listen to Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He used to be an economic hitman for the IMF. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I forget his name off the top of my head. But oh my goodness, if you want to really see what the IMF is about, oh, you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine. So, but what he's talking about here is literally, remember Miguel Villas at Ripple said, you know, I kind of see us as maybe a lender of last resort, because he was asked, what are you guys planning on doing with the escrow? And he said, you know, to me, I don't think we'll ever sell it all. I think maybe we could see ourselves as a lender of last resort, maybe. That would kind of be strange for a private company. So something would probably have to change structurally. I don't know. Or maybe we pass off our escrow to another institution and they become a lender of last resort. Listen, that's the IMF. The main lender of last resort on planet Earth is the IMF. And so for those that haven't watched all my deep dives, or many of them, literally I cracked the code on that, and literally can find that in my community, the Apex community. They go under IMF, the IMF course. Literally all my deep dives are there. But what's happening is literally, I'll try to remember to put the link if you want to go deeper, because it's like 4 hour, right? I can't go on a 4 hour rant right now. But literally what they're doing is the IMF tried to do the special drawing rights to provide what was supposed to be a supplementary reserve asset to the US dollar. It was in 1968. It was supposed to act as a supplementary reserve asset to help the US dollar with global liquidity, FX, and global trade. This was in 1968, but it didn't work. It didn't have the use cases and literally the liquidity required. So it never got full adoption, because at the time they only gave it to central banks. They never gave it to all the commercial banks and corporations and fintechs and retail people to build use cases around it so that it would get that liquidity. So they kind of, my understanding, they made a mistake. They didn't structure it properly. And that's when we see the article, the Rising Phoenix article, saying get ready for a new world currency in 1988, saying they have new technology that will help them to literally create a new global reserve currency. And it describes exactly what the special drawing rights was supposed to do. And in the article, they, in a very subtle way, they say that the IMF should be the ones managing it because of their experience with ESR. So literally what they're doing, and this new world reserve currency would come on the scene around 2018. And this is when we see Ripple gaining adoption, RippleNet. So long story short is what they're doing here is Ripple's just a front for the IMF. They're literally doing the IMF's business. And I've shown in my deep dives literally where they're saying that to create a new ESDR, an electronic special drawing rights, or a digital SDR, it would be better if a private company issued it because it would get faster global adoption and the IMF could take it over after. So what he's describing here by a strategic reset is literally Bretton Woods 3. When President Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, that's considered by most central bankers and basically writers, macroeconomic, most central bankers consider that as a second Bretton Woods 2. Even though it was not called Bretton Woods 2 at the time, it was Bretton Woods 2. And now they're calling for a new Bretton Woods, a digital Bretton Woods, or Bretton Woods 3. That's the XRP ledger. This is the strategic reset he's talking about, the global reset. It has to do with, anyways, a long story, but it has to do with fixing the Triffin's dilemma as well. A very long story, but I've done numerous deep dives on that where I cracked the code. They're all organized in the Apex community if you want to try it. I'll try to remember to put the link below here. I'll try to remember to put it. And yeah, it's all there. It's literally, it's unbelievable. It's a long story. Like I said, it's like 4 hours, but if you really want to see the code being cracked, watch my deep dives on the IMF. Yeah, that's it, buddy. That's all, because this video is going to be very long. It's hard to mention anything about the IMF, man, without me going on a rant, because there's a lot to discuss there. It's all good.
Just making sure. All right, so I want to pull up the other part of what Mr. Mann shared. It's an actual document, okay? It's important that we share some of these things. So for one, here it is. Let's zoom in a little bit, okay? As we get into it, you're going to see firsthand what we're talking about here. Let's just shrink it out just a tad bit more. All right, that's good enough. So it says RippleNet, a new global payment system. Again, back to what Jesse was kind of talking about before. At the very bottom, this comes from, Springer. Okay, I wanted to give you guys the reference. All right, so for one, it says right here, a trade or payment is executed by making a valid change to the central ledger. You don't say. Here, an interledger protocol connects the different payment record systems of all participating banks from which it creates the central ledger. The central ledger is shared and maintained by all network members and represents every user's balance. Currencies enter and exit the Ripple network via gateways, for example, banks. And of course, that citation is from Rappaport back in 2014. We see here, you also have when a user wants to withdraw money from the Ripple network, the existing balance is redeemed. For security purposes, every user of RippleNet must hold a small amount of XRP. Within the network, payments can either be processed directly via XRP debit payments or indirectly via path-based currency agnostic, like IOU, or IOU, literally that's what it means. settlement transactions. So this is really interesting to see these findings. Great research, of course, from Mr. Mann. And there's even this little illustration of how like some of these gateways happen. And I kind of even think of like Quant, because we know that, with their APIs, it's literally a gateway to pretty much anything and everything. But again, in Figure 5, cross-border payments via RippleNet, and boom, it's all there. If you want to go see it for yourself, it's d-nb.info. But Jesse, even some more of your thoughts in regard to this document from Mr. Mann.
Oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. So the interledger protocol is mainly, for my understanding, it's called interledger because it interconnects ledgers, financial ledgers. That's why all the central banks, commercial banks, and fintechs, they can literally connect via the interledger protocol. So again, it's to interconnect ledgers. And then you have the XRP ledger. Ripple, he talked about how with the gateways, they can settle through the XRP ledger. But Quant is exactly what you said. Quant is also interoperability, but it's not just to connect, it's not to connect necessarily exchange ledgers, but it's to literally connect everything. It's to interconnect anything, literally all the legacy systems. It's a next level type of interoperability. So the interledger protocol is a very specialized use case. It's the internet value, and then Quant interconnecting legacy systems, which means all the different systems that we currently run on right now. Every single industry in the world right now is literally running on legacy systems, which means systems that cannot speak to blockchain. They're not compatible with blockchain. So Quant provides the interconnection of all these systems to all the blockchains and any other future blockchain as well. And also AI, anything. So any data, any database, any software, any system that exists, ERP, ERMs, whatever you call them, literally anything. So that's different. So Quant's kind of like any to any interoperability, while the interledger protocol is actually a very specialized protocol to connect exchange networks or financial ledgers. That would be, I think, the best place to explain it. But man, there was so much in that. What else do I want to say? I think that's it. Literally, that's all I got. But the other thing too, I want to add in the previous slide that you showed, previous video, the guy said that literally we have a big database at the Fed, right? He says it's called blockchain. Isn't that interesting? He said we have a big database at the Fed. It's called the blockchain. And then he goes on how to say like we could use a third party like Ripple, and unbelievable, man. So unbelievable. No, that's it, buddy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. There's so many findings, right? When we get into the documents and even the clippings and, share those clippings from the IMF. Big shout out to Mr. Mann. Again, guys, I mean, look past the mask, listen to the research. That's my philosophy, but it is what.
No, he's awesome. And the reason he's got a mask, I did an amazing collab with him. He's awesome, man. He's a very, very good researcher, like really, really good guy to follow, like crazy. But the reason he originally wore the mask is because he didn't want to show his identity for security reasons, and I don't blame him. And I don't blame him at all. Like the reason I hesitated to do videos for almost a year or two is that I was like, do I really want to show my face and literally show everybody like I'm into crypto and stuff? So it's a security reasons, and I don't blame him. But I understand it's, you see Spider-Man talking to you, maybe at first can throw you off, but when you listen to what he has to say, he's really, really, really good. Really good. Shout out to him.
Yeah, he's got terrific research. And he is also a very mature, kind individual. So
very nice guy. Yeah. Awesome.
Nothing but respect to Mr. Mann for sure. What I want to do now is I want to fast track through a lot of this because we need to, right? And then we're going to wrap up the video. So for one, big shouts again to another person in the community. We've been sharing a lot of her tweets and so on. This is Diana, Invest with D. She just posted this earlier today. Okay, so it was breaking at the time, and depending on when you get this video, maybe a little later. She says, breaking 12 trillion dollar giant Charles Schwab officially announced crypto trading on their stock platform. Again, back to the subject of what we're talking about with the stock market tokenization. Okay. So again, crypto trading on their stock platform. Charles Schwab, one of the largest financial institutions with over 12 trillion in assets, has officially confirmed it is preparing to launch direct spot crypto trading on its platform. Like, yeah, my eyes are wide open. The new product called Schwab Crypto, that's interesting, will allow users to buy and sell crypto directly inside their stock accounts. And at launch, there's only going to be BTC and Ethereum, but there's going to be a full rollout, Jesse, targeted for first half of 2026, which we're in that first half, technically speaking still. There's early access signups already open. This is a phased rollout, starts with limited assets and gradual access, not a full launch yet, but boom, XRP will eventually follow later. I want to pull up the document for a second, and then we'll get some of your insight on this. So I think that's big enough for now, all right? We're trying to fast track through this. So again, you see this, explore cryptocurrency, investing at Schwab, and then again, Schwab Crypto. It's literally a trademark coming soon, like it says here. Really interesting to see this. And then on the other part, Thanks for signing up for Schwab Crypto. Confirmation. He just didn't want to dox himself and so on. But again, very, very important to share that. I shouldn't say he, obviously Diana. And before I jump over to you, Jesse, just to give people a transparent, quick search. Anybody can look this up. Charles Schwab NASDAQ Index Fund. Schwab does, in fact, offer access to several NASDAQ index funds, primarily through third-party providers. So again, remember how we just talked about the guy at the beginning from the Fed? Remember how Jesse just talked about third-party? Yeah, this is adding up. Aimed at tracking NASDAQ's 100, large cap focus, et cetera, et cetera. Now, to pound it home even more, what about Quant with the Overledger? Well, again, they have integration with NASDAQ, as you see here. And last but not least, Diana wants to remind everyone how early you are, because crypto market is 17 years old, but the stock market is 495 years old. And here's the icing on the cake. We'll kick it over to Jesse for closing comments. We see here, also just in, the FDIC schedules April 7th, which is basically 3 days from now, depending on when you get the video, board meeting to begin formal implementation of the Genius Act, paving the way for banks to issue stablecoins through subsidiaries under a 1-1 reserve rule. And let's just kind of share what we have with that, because we did talk about the Fed, right? So for one, you see there, you do have what's mentioned in the highlights. And then as we bring it down here, matters to be considered, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC Board of Directors will meet on the following matters. And look at this, Jesse. They're going to discuss the notice of proposed rulemaking for the Genius Act. And look what it says here, permitted payment stablecoin issuers, such as the insured depository institutions, notice of proposed rulemaking, like your AML, your, all that stuff. And the final rule, the prohibition on use of reputation risk by regulators. So this is all coming into fruition, my friend. And I know a lot of the FUD has been out there when it comes to all this, but apparently we're going to get some updates. I think it's inevitable that the switches may not be necessarily the main switch. I think it's multiple switches, as Brad Garlinghouse has said, but they're going to be flipping on some switches. This is inevitable. You don't build the internet of value without enabling it. And again, back to Brad Garlinghouse's profile. Remember how it used to say, we're building the internet of value? What's it say? Last we checked. Actually, he erased it, right? But it says we're enabling the internet of value. Your closing thoughts.
Yeah, so while it coincides with what we're seeing, I think is the DTCC that say we're going to try to tokenize everything within 2 years. That's insane. And I think it was like 2-3 years ago, where the World Economic Forum said that literally within 3 years, this was like 2-3 years ago, they said this. They said that within 3 years, we'll have about 10% of the GDP of the world tokenized. So it's all going on blockchain. That's what I've been telling people. This has been planned for many, many years. They don't want you to know, but this has been planned for many, many years. So while the mainstream media years ago was saying, this Bitcoin technology, what is it? Is it, counterfeit money, BS, it's going to be only for money laundering, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, it's not even about Bitcoin. They knew, the powers that be knew that it's about the underlying technology, DLT and blockchain. And they've been planning this for many, many years. And so, yeah, it's all going to be tokenized. And the same way we have the third industrial revolution, which was the information age, literally now we're moving to the fourth industrial age, which is the tokenization age. So everything went on the internet. Eventually, everything went the internet. Our whole lives right now are on the internet. Every industry is on the internet. But now we're moving to the fourth industrial age, so everything's going to go into blockchain as well. And we're going to have AI involved in there too. So that's it, buddy. And if you want, I can close it out for you because I always give you the work. So my friends, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. We appreciate all the comments that you guys give us. You guys are so, so, so amazing. We love you. And thank you so much. And God bless you all so much. Have a good one. Thank you. Closing it out.
All right. So no code word. You can blame Jesse for that. And we'll see you guys on the next video. God bless you all. Over and out.
Code word is Maximus. Maximus.